Welcome to the Great Basin Prescribed Fire and Smoke Transport Briefing for Friday, January 9th. Currently, we have quite a bit of prescribed burning occurring across the Great Basin, really in most areas. Recently, we've seen precipitation move across many areas of the Great Basin over the last 7 to 14 days. We've seen above normal precipitation in parts of Idaho, Wyoming, northern Utah, and even parts of southern and western Nevada. Still, some overly dry areas are the southern two-thirds of Utah into the Arizona Strip, not accounting for some of the precipitation we saw yesterday or the day before, and then also northwest Nevada. This most recent storm over the last 72 hours has brought new snowfall to many higher elevation and even some low elevation sites across the Great Basin. You can see many areas from central Utah up into Wyoming, and the higher elevations of Idaho, Nevada have received 6 to 12 inches of new snowfall or more. Even some valley locations received a few inches of snow in many locations. The snow depth is indicated on the right and obviously is mainly tied to the higher elevations. However, for the time of year, this snowpack is definitely underwhelming. Some areas over the Sierra and western Nevada and up into Idaho are near normal for the time of year, even a little bit above normal for western Wyoming, but still below normal for much of Nevada and Utah. Looking at how the precipitation, however, corresponds with the current snowpack, you can see the areas that we've seen well above normal precipitation in parts of Idaho and even into the central and northern Sierra. You can see the snowpack is still generally near normal. We've had a lot of warmer storms with higher snow levels that brought significant amounts of precipitation, but wasn't cold enough to bring some of those higher elevation snowfall, which would be considered above normal for the time of year. So again, we are seeing some areas see a snow drought. Hopefully we'll see that change, but we are seeing a drier period emerge here for the next couple of weeks. Otherwise, in Utah, where we have below normal precipitation, we are still seeing below normal snowpack. Looking at our current field conditions, really no concerns across the region as storms bring some periods of colder temperatures and precipitation. Up north in Idaho, we are seeing ERCs just above normal and will be trending maybe a little bit up here over the next week with the drier conditions. However, parts of southeast Utah, we're seeing well above normal, even near record ERC for the time of year, but you can see it's well below any critical values. So again, no concerns across the region, and I anticipate prescribed burning conditions will still be favorable in many locations depending on what conditions you're looking for. Looking at the satellite image, we have a ridge of high pressure building along the west coast with some northerly flow across much of the Great Basin. The storm system that has been impacting the area the last couple days is now exiting, but we are continuing to see that cool, breezy, northerly flow across the region. So looking at our weather pattern today, again, you can see that ridge just continue to build. However, with that cold northerly flow, we will see temperatures below normal for the time of year across the region, but much of the moisture has moved off to the east. This will keep dispersion higher over the southern and eastern half of the Great Basin with the breezy northerly winds, so again, favorable for prescribed burning. Looking at the transport winds, you can see some of those wind gusts are above 30 or 40 miles per hour in parts of the southern area of the Great Basin, but the rest of the region really will see much lighter winds. Otherwise, mixing heights will remain low to moderate. Looking at our temperatures, again, we are seeing generally near to below normal temperatures for the time of year with the cooler conditions over the eastern side of the Great Basin, but again, still generally below normal even over southern and western areas by several degrees. Relative humidity will remain lower on the southern areas of the Great Basin and generally above 40% elsewhere. As we move into Saturday, the ridge really just continues to push eastward across the region, so we will see generally lighter winds region-wide, so that will cause our dispersion to decrease. So the winds again will drop off even in southern areas, but still remaining a bit breezy. Mixing heights will generally decrease region-wide. So definitely the air quality and the inversion something to watch out for as we go through the weekend and the ridge builds across the region. Looking at our temperatures for Saturday, really very little change, still staying generally below normal. Relative humidity peaks up a little bit even in southern areas. For Sunday, the ridge continues to build in, so again, we are looking for a generally drier period. Temperatures will be fluctuating with inversions and as that colder air starts to move out, but we will see overall an increase in temperatures over at least the western half of the Great Basin as we go into next week. So again, transport winds under the ridge, very light with low mixing heights. Temperatures start to rise over southern and western areas of the Great Basin, but really just closer to normal, still remaining on the cool side for eastern areas, and then relative humidity really unchanged. So no real precipitation expected in the next few days, with the exception of a few remaining showers, maybe over far northern part of the Great Basin in central Idaho, and then in parts of Wyoming. As we go into next week, the ridge just settles in. We'll continue with northwest flow across the northern side of the Great Basin. This may push some cloud cover at times across northern areas, but really not expecting any precipitation. We will just see these temperatures continue to rise. However, again, keeping in mind those inversions with the light winds across the region. And so this pattern really continues into the middle of next week. It's really later next week where we may see a dry cold front drop south from the northern Rockies, giving us another cold shot of air for the eastern side of the Great Basin, maybe a few showers, but right now not looking for anything significant precipitation-wise across the Great Basin for the next 7 to 10 days. So here's that look at the precipitation forecast from the National Weather Service. So again, really nothing on there for the next 7 days. And the 8 to 14 day outlook highlights this next pattern change well with the above normal temperatures and drier conditions, at least for much of the Great Basin, more so for Nevada and the western half of Utah. Some areas might just push temperatures to near normal, but again, we will see that warmer trend over western areas. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back on Monday for the latest updates.